everybody, it's Robbie from Southern California. I've had so many questions on Sowbugs, Pillbugs, roly-polies, whatever you want to call it. You know, they're around and I've got them, and I will tell you, I think most gardeners do have them in their garden. They really are completely harmless. They don't bite, they don't sting. You know, they're just there, and they're actually doing a good job. What they're normally doing is breaking down matter. Now, we have a lot of wood chips in our yard, and this is something they love. They can hide in it, they can live in wood chips, and what they do in the wood chips is they're breaking it down. So they're one of the beneficial insects to a point. Now, when you get a lot of them, they can be basically a nuisance. For them, what they tend to do is they will go after new seedlings coming up. If you're growing, let's say, squash, things like that, zucchini, what you'll see is if you've got them around, they're going to go after those two new big, delicious leaves that open up. They can hide under them. They can just sit there and slowly devour the leaf, whether they're on top of the leaf when they feel safe or under the leaf, hanging upside down, eating it. So that's where the problem comes from when it comes to roly-polies. There are ways to work with them. I work with them. If you're dealing with them and they're in your garden in the ground, then you may have to protect your seedlings coming up. They're generally not going to eat the whole plant. They're looking for the new plants that are starting to come up from seed. The only plants that we have found that they seem to really like is potatoes, plain old potatoes. They'll just love to devour those leaves. There must be something about it. They can crawl on them, get in there, and just eat them. But here, they tend to go after the seedlings. So there are ways that you can deal with them. You can put traps out. You can put a toilet paper roll out, or let's say a cup type utensil out, because what they like to do is hide. And if you put inside the cup, let's say you can put fruit, you can put leaves, you can put whatever you want, something that's soft and something they like to eat. They'll go inside there, and then you can simply go back the next day and shake them out or dispose of them whatever way you want to dispose of them. And that is one way. We've trapped them that way around the yard. Basically what we do if we're planting in the ground directly is I make a sleeve, and you'll see here how I've taken the bottom of, let's say, a cottage cheese container. I have pushed it in the soil, and then I've planted my seed in the middle. The reason is they're really not good climbers when it comes to plastic. They don't have suction cups, so they can't really climb on plastic. So you plant your seeds in the middle, and once your plant gets 4 or 5 new leaves, you can remove the sleeve, and generally you're okay at that point. If you're dealing with a container gardening, like I do a lot of my gardening in, let's say, containers, you could actually just put in those traps, like I said, be it a cup, a flower pot, toilet paper roll, put in some fruit, something they want to eat. They like papaya. They'll like anything that you like. They'll go after it. Use maybe some tender green leaves, and you'll see that they'll climb in there. You can trap a lot of them that way. In a container, you can generally find them because they don't live underground, but they live in crevices. So you might see them around the edge of your tote. You can start picking them up and just tossing them out because they can't climb in. If you put your tote up against the wall, I've done it, they can crawl up a block wall, and then they can get to the edge of your tote and jump in. But again, they're only going to eat your seedlings, really. What I would do is start to remove, I just remove them out of the totes. And if I see them, I remove them. I put a sleeve that I make around my seedlings that are coming up in there. And once they start getting their adult leaves, they generally are fine. Keep the leaves off the ground also. So as the newer leaves come in, maybe trim off the very bottom leaves that are touching the soil itself, because that's really where they like to go. Another way of trapping them is simply taking, let's say, a collard leaf or something they like eating and laying some leaves in your tote. Now, when you lay them in the tote, you'll go back and pick it up, and you'll see they'll be all over underneath because, again, they want to hide and they want to eat that way. and they're hiding from their predators. So you could just remove them that way. Basically, it's like getting rid of hornworms off your tomato plants. You can hand pick them. I would not use insecticide. Like I said, once your seedlings get bigger, they don't tend to bother them. The only fruit they're going to bother, let's say on squash, would be something that already got a cut in it. I have not had them actually eat the fruit itself, but if it starts to decay and it's sitting on the ground, that's when they'll generally turn around at that point, and they might start to nibble because there'll already be an opening in the fruit. I just don't consider them that big of a problem. Now, if you are having a major problem with them, and let's say you've got more than we can count, then the other thing to do is maybe you will have to grow in totes. Totes are my favorite thing to grow in. And start with new fresh soil, because when you're using repurposed soil from around your yard, and if you don't watch it, you could be bringing in a whole bunch of them. And their lifespan is 2 years generally, but they can go to 5. So if you are dealing with a lot of them, you could do it that way. Just start with fresh soil. You may have to buy some soil. Another thing you can do also is if you want to build your totes like I showed you with leaves and brush and anything like that, if you think they may have some Sowbugs in there, you can put it in a bucket of water, soak it overnight, and then drain the water out and put that on the bottom of your totes, because that's one thing, they cannot live in water. So that will get rid of them and that will kill them. You drain the water out, don't put it in your totes, and use it that way. That's basically it. You may have to start your plants in something else or somewhere else and put them out as nice size plant starts, because what they're going after generally are your seedlings. If the sleeve doesn't work, then yes, you may have to try that. Try different methods, see what works for you. They're really not as bad as you think, because they do go in there and they eat a lot of decaying matter, and they actually help feed your soil. They're turning your old leaves back into soil. So they're not as bad as some other things we could have. They're basically like a land-dwelling lobster and crab. And they're not going to hurt anything. We just have to learn to deal with them. I've got them in my totes. They're not a problem for me because a lot of my plants grow so fast. They haven't bothered the tomato plants. They haven't really bothered too much. They have eaten some of my new seedlings from my squash. And that's when if they start to cause that problem, I trap them. I put in other leaves around, away from the seedlings coming up, some collared leaves around it, lay it down on the soil. They'll go underneath. They prefer that. They'll eat that and they'll stay away because it gives them a place to hide as well as eat. I hope I've given you some ideas on this. You know, like I said, they're not that hard to get rid of. Just hand pick them out when you see them. And do try to pick the biggest ones out if you can, because it's very interesting. The female, from what I've researched, has a pouch. She's like a marsupial. She's carrying and brooding her young. And roly-polies, you know, they produce generally in the spring. That might be why you're seeing so many. They're actually interesting bugs, I'm going to call them, because they're not really an insect. They carry their eggs in a fluid pouch, the mother does in her body, and they can stay there for up to 2 months until they hatch. So they're really an interesting animal. Maybe this is why they go into the spring garden. They're trying to eat a little healthier for their babies. I don't know. So just pick through, try to get rid of them that way. Again, they don't bite. They're the little bugs that a lot of kids pick up and enjoy. Pillbugs are the ones that roll up. There are 2 species. Sowbugs do not roll up. There are some pesticides you can buy that they can eat, and it will kill the roly-polies, and they'll eat it and they'll die. I myself would not bother with that. But if it's that bad, you can go to a nursery or look online and see if there is some bait that you can buy for them if you've got that much. But I think if you put a sleeve around your plants, I think that's going to work best for you. And if it's really bad, you start your plants in a separate pot, a separate container. Designate some totes maybe with fresh potting soil that has not touched the ground anywhere. start your plants that way and then move them. Because a lot of plants I move all the time. I start a lot of my plants in totes just because I planted too many seeds, or maybe I composted, like I compost in place. A lot of seeds came up and I wanted to save them, so I moved them. You can move them out of there once they start getting their adult leaves, and you should not have a problem. And then give them something else to eat if you've got that many. So I hope I've given you some ideas on this and how you can possibly deal with them. Again, they're Mother Nature's little chewers that are making soil for us, and maybe we can all work together. If not, ask questions and I'll see if I can come up with some other answers. You may come up with even better answers. With that, have a wonderful day, and don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye.